We've spent the last few weeks talking Windows on this podcast, and maybe you're tired of it. But you know what? Those poor Microsoft fans had to sit through 18 months of Android and iOS news while we waited for a proper Windows flagship. So they get one more show before the year is out. Today, we're summing up the day-to-day experience of the Lumia 950 and Windows 10 Mobile, and of course, hitting the mobile news of the week on episode 177 of the Pocketnow Weekly. This is a once-a-week podcast where we discuss and dissect those gadgets that make our mobile lives possible. Smartphones, tablets, wearables, GPS-enabled candy canes, and beyond. It's all the stuff you wished existed when you were a kid. I'm Michael Fisher, reviews editor for Pocketnow, and I'm sharing a beautiful day in Boston, Massachusetts with producer Jules Wong. Joining us from New Jersey, as he does every week, is the headline wrangler of the entire news team, Pocketnow's chief news editor, Stephen Schenk. Good day to you.
Can I just say that when you said candy cane, my mind did not go to the striped holiday treat, but to some sort of, walking assistance device that dispensed treats, which I think is an untapped market.
I think that you need to get more sleep, and I'm worried about you.
Yeah.
Hopping aboard the Weekly for the first time ever from the MS Mobile Show and from the great city of Fargo, North Dakota, Vernon E.L. Smith. Glad to have you with us.
Good day, all. I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you here. The time on the East Coast is 1:06 p.m. Good afternoon. And y'all's time may vary because I'm detecting a fair amount of latency on this podcast already. Google Hangouts has us off to a great start.
Of course it does.
Google Hangouts is tough, right? And the build of the internet is tough. It's all made of lines of code. Oh, and speaking of which, did you know that with just a few lines of code, you can send text messages that include alerts, reminders, order updates, SMS marketing campaigns, and instructions for app downloads? Well, it's true. With Telecommunications Systems Cloud Messaging Center, developers can easily integrate text messaging into their own mobile application, backend, or website. We're talking business, folks. As a company, TCS handles up to 670 billion messages per year. That's billion with a B. That's an average of 1.8 billion messages per day. You want to talk about APIs? I'll tell you about APIs. Their CMC REST API lets you send messages for alerts, reminders, and order updates. You can also use it to send SMS marketing campaigns, to drive app downloads, or increase user engagement. The REST API allows you to perform messaging functions such as, you ready? Sending, receiving, and scheduling messages, securing delivery receipts. We all like to know when someone's read a message, and creating groups and contacts. And finally, TCS offers inter-carrier messaging across how many U.S. carriers? All U.S. wireless carriers. This is fun. The pricing is flexible and based on quantity of messages needed, featuring pay-as-you-go monthly plans. I could keep talking about it, but just go see for yourself. Cloudmessaging.guru. That's where you go. It's a .guru domain. That's the most fun thing I've ever heard of. Cloudmessaging.guru, G-U-R-U, to sign up for the Cloud Messaging Center REST API. Start integrating this messaging solution today.
Woo! What was the old computer that when it crashed, it had its version of the blue screen of death was Guru Meditation?
What?
Well, is it Amiga or something? Or Commodore 64? Is one of those.
It would entice me to have my computer crash because that would be entertaining.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, there's just really no way to get around it. That's a very interesting crash.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of desktops and old machines and old systems, before we get into Windows talk, I want to ask, I've mentioned this a couple times on the show, but I want to ask Vernon if he has used the MS-DOS application for Windows 10 Mobile.
Yes, I have. It fits in the category of entertaining, and it's something that was done quite well by Microsoft.
Very well.
And it also makes me wonder, that is someone's side project goofing around. It wasn't something they did in an afternoon. It was like a team worked on this for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah.
And okay, so you can do this, but I have these complaints, valid or not, that you just happen to not get to. So, I mean, there's a balance.
Yeah, no, there is. But you know what? I'll take the hit. Microsoft, you keep on you keep that MS-DOS team busy, because I wasn't aware. If you don't remember DOS, children, it's an acronym for Disk Operating System, and it used to be what ran desktop computers. And it was a command line interface. You just typed, and it was all text.
Awesome.
It was freaking terrific, but I didn't know. So I'm in there on the phone. You can download this app. It's called MS-DOS Mobile or whatever, and it just gives you a C prompt, and you can type away and give it whatever commands you want. But I didn't realize that if you did CD Windows to change to the Windows directory and then typed Win, it would run like a package, and that you would get the Windows 3.1 interface. Had you done that?
I didn't do that. I mean, there's just a whole list of Easter eggs in there, and it was a really, really fun time actually to see that take the micro news cycle of us Win fans or whatever one would call them.
When did this come out?
Wait, what, Steven?
When did this come out?
This is old. This is probably about 4 months old, 6 months old, Vernon.
In that time frame, yep.
Is this
but
an
it's
actual
in that time frame I talked about in the intro? Like, it was that time when it's like, oh, something funky came out for Windows Phone. Is anybody using a Windows Phone right now? No, your 830 is broken because the Insider Edition broke. Okay, well then forget it.
But is this like a DOS box style emulator, or just like it looks like DOS and it's all
what it looks like.
Right, but can you run x86 software emulated on there?
No.
But when you go to Windows and you type in Win, and it gives you the Windows 3.1 splash screen, and then it gives you first of all, it gives you the DOS, I love. And then you can access features on the phone. I need to turn brightness down. You can access features on the phone via the Windows 3.1 interface.
All that good stuff.
When you hop into Media Player, the track it loads. I want to see if you remember this, Steven. Do you remember when Windows would package its own theme song in its own media players?
I've never heard this song before.
Are you serious?
Oh wait, no. That does ring a bell.
Yeah, that's how they introduced Balmer about 20 years ago, and he'd come on stage. That would be the theme song occasionally.
Are you serious?
I've heard it. You go back and you see like replays or whatever of these keynotes, and it's so nerdy. It's awesome. And it's
totally.
But yeah, that sounds like one of those intro songs.
All this is in the category of nerdy. When you go to the internet browser, it gives you the old dial-up sounds. I mean, it's fantastic. If you have the MS-DOS emulator on your Windows
Hold on. It is an internet browser on there? Windows 3.1 never shipped with an internet browser.
It did too. I remember it.
It didn't even have TCP/IP. You had to have your own external WinSock.
I know.
I don't think reality and truth really counts in this.
It's just muddying the waters.
Oh, all right. Steven's not good. We just ruined any chance of Steven buying a Lumia 950, everybody. You're welcome.
Yeah, that's what did it.
Yeah. Well, let's get to it. I think it's time to talk. I don't know what we're calling this segment. I forgot what Jules built the rundown today, everybody. Can we have a little clapter for Jules? That's a very nice work, Jules Wong. Thank you. Appreciate that. Good job, Jules. I don't know what this segment is called, but I think it's called Getting to Know the Lumia 950 from a Fan's Perspective. Jules, if we have a drop for it, put it in there.
Getting to know all about it.
Oh, that reminds me the Mystery Science Theater is coming back, and I'm really excited about that. So, we've talked a lot about Windows Phone, Windows 10 Mobile. Our Lumia 950 review is going live later today. I spent a ridiculous amount of time on it. Yeah, I think it's the longest review I've ever written. I think it's up there around 4,500 words. And the video is 12 minutes, which is crazy.
So it was like 7 hours of original footage you had to whittle down.
For real. Seriously, I blew through 2 camera batteries just getting the footage for this review. But anyway, I had to shoot it all inside, so it kind of sucks. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's going to be a really cool review to read. I think you should read it. But we've talked about Continuum on this show. We've talked about Windows 10. We've talked about Microsoft strategy. We can touch on that. But why I have Vernon E.L. Smith here principally, aside from the fact that I've been serial listening to the MS Mobile show in the past few days and just wanted to hear his voice again, is to actually get a first-hand recounting of what it's like for an actual Windows fan who's been carrying, correct me if I'm wrong, a Windows Phone as your daily driver for, I don't know, what, roughly 3 decades it feels like at this point?
It does feel like that, yeah. As far as a daily driver, yeah, probably my first Windows mobile device was whatever, 2008, I suppose.
Okay.
And that does feel like a long time ago. There are plenty of people who predate that. I'm not an original, but I feel I guess I'm.
You're no Adam Lane, but Not everyone can be.
Exactly. That's what I was referring to.
Hmm.
So, all right, but you had a launch day experience where you went and bought this thing on launch day. You didn't have a review device. You didn't have anything. You had the pure full retail experience of being someone who's waited for the Windows Phone flagship after they missed a cycle. And I want to know what that was like. Tell us what Windows Phone device you had. Tell us what your buying experience was like, and tell us just let us in on that bit of fun, because let's be real. Everyone out there who's scoffing, by the way, at this little minor thing, don't
And there are
do
scoffers.
it, because you know that there's a wonderful feeling of nerdy harmony when you go to a store and get a phone you've waited for a long time. So tell us about it, Murray.
Absolutely. Well, I got to frame this a little bit, is that it's not quite a pure buying experience. The device itself obviously was, but I've been running Windows 10 Mobile for almost a year now on, the the junky versions of it, really. And
sure,
so I
the
did
insider builds, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it did take me a while to transition through that, being a bit of a Metro UI purist, whatever that might be. That has been a rough transition for me, going from what Windows Phone 8.1 was, moving to Windows 10 Mobile. For plenty of reasons, we could dig into it. We could just leave it at that. But the device,
yeah.
I was ready for the 950. There's in our circles, the WinFan circles, it was something that it was debated hotly. It's like, what are you going to get? I have the 1520, I have the 830. I've used those extensively. I'm comfortable with them. I use the Lumia 640. Amazing value, good enough phone, and really sells well to those people who are not like me, basically. But I was ready. I was ready for a new flagship, and we all call flagship, whatever that is in people's minds. And as we become so full of fandom, we build up these specs. The sooner we hear the specs, they continue to grow, and we expect more, and like we make it out to be something just absolutely mind-blowing. And this phone isn't mind-blowing. It is a flagship. It is good. I like it. But back to what you're saying is, so I went to the AT&T store. I knew the day it was coming out. I waited before they opened up the gate. I knocked on it before they opened and said, "Hey, you open it at 10, right?" Yep. And every year around November, they see me knocking on that gate, and oh crap, there's the new Windows Phone coming up. So,
oh yeah, that's right. It's those dusty boxes we got back in the storage room we were supposed to train on. Did you train on it? No, I didn't. Okay, no, me either. All right, don't worry. He'll tell us about it.
Yeah. So literally that was it, basically. I mean, open the gate, I walk in. Yep, I'm gonna get it. They say, "Yeah, which color do you want?" And I said, "Whatever. What do you have?" And
green.
Yeah. And they literally had one left. I mean, like it was like, okay, what?
Wait, left? Weren't you the first one there?
Yeah, but if you know these AT&T retail stores, little minor insider stuff on there, they have them reserved. There might be quasi pre-orders,
yeah.
whether they're true or not. So it wasn't like they literally got only one shipped to them, but there was one available.
Huh.
They said, "Oh, it's the black one." I'm like, "That's fine." Well, it wasn't the black one anyway. It was white. Just the outside happened to be black. The box. And so yeah, I get it. Didn't even open it up as a, I guess, Windows Phone purist. I'm like, nope, don't break that seal.
He's gonna kill the resale value.
I got this before. Well, yeah, but I got this. And I'm not the only one who does that, of course. And so yeah, I get it. It didn't even ask. I just said, yeah, give me a new SIM. I don't know if I'll activate it or not, but yep, I'm gonna use this thing. I'm buying it. Went through the whole shebang, walked out. What was really, really interesting, though, as far as buying this thing when I was there, I was there at a few minutes after 10 o'clock. It took me 20 minutes to go through the whole thing. And in that time, there were two people that came in after me who had asked for the 950. And there were also three people that called that asked for the 950 if there were any left. So I don't know what that truly means.
I don't either. What a bizarre order fulfillment system. That's crazy.
So was that the direction you were going with a buying experience?
Yeah, I had to hop out for a second because of a technical issue, but when I came back, you had finished talking about. Did you say that they had tried to set it up for you and you went back in and restored defaults and did it yourself?
Well, I stopped them well before that. I mean, and at this point, my buddy Jim, he knows.
Your store buddy.
Yeah, my store buddy. So, in between launches, I go in there and, tell them what they're doing wrong. I say, hey, this thing isn't set up right here. Want me to log in? Want to do the demo for it? You need an update on this demo device. All this. It's horrible. And it's wonderful. So I don't know.
Terrific.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I remember well my interacting with my colleagues in wireless retail, and some of them were very well informed. They were all pretty much really good people, but some of them were very well informed, and then others just had no idea what they were slinging. And I was always grateful when a customer would be like, "That doesn't sound right," and I'm like, "Yeah, why don't I talk to you for a second and take a break?"
Yeah.
But that was what, over a week ago now.
2 weeks ago today.
2 weeks ago. My
Mm-hmm.
God, does the time go? And you've had this phone for 2 weeks. What has your experience been like? How has it been on the whole? Are you satisfied? And when I ask, are you satisfied, I mean, even if it wasn't the case that there was no other device to go to besides the XL, would you still be satisfied?
Well, there's always part of us who wants something better, and that's understandable. The rumors of the Surface phone. There's even rumors of a Lumia 850 coming out. We're
Yeah.
always looking to the next thing. But to be satisfied with a production device, I am. I'm not truly satisfied with the design of it. It's not as pretty, but it's like I mentioned on Twitter. It's like the difference between a Mustang and an F-150. They still do most of the same things, and they typically can cost about the same amount. You're still driving, you're still moving people for most of the part, but they're vastly different. So
Sure, but like to counter that a little bit, like what I would find myself doing back when I used to buy devices a lot was that if I had made the decision to buy it because I'd waited for it a long time or whatever, I was gonna buy it, and then I was gonna come home, and if it didn't exactly measure up to what I wanted it to be, I was gonna ignore the hell out of that part of my brain. It was teasing.
You're gonna find a way to love it.
Absolutely. I was going to justify the hell out of it.
Mhm.
But then the next phase after that would be about 3 months down the road or 4 months down the road, and you get the first hints, the first renders of the sequel. And then you like look to the device you bought, and you're like, man, what a piece of garbage.
So over.
I can't believe I fooled myself into loving you. And do you see that happening with this one? Because I do. I know what I'm going to write about the 950 already when its successor comes out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It is a stopgap. Win fans hate to just use that term, but that's what it is. It's the old Nokia lineage. You've talked about this, but it's before this supposed Surface phone coming out, cleaning out the old DNA. Yeah, it's a stopgap. It's not perfect, and I'm satisfied enough with it. And yeah, I will look forward to that new thing. But I have a small pile of phones here that I can choose from, and I still choose from them. I still go back to them occasionally, almost nostalgically, what have you.
Sure.
And there's value in each of these form factors. The difference between an 830 and a 1520, literally can be between your summer and your winter phone. It's something as simple as that. And so there's value in each
weekend and weekday phone even. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, whether you want to put it in a chest pocket or a pants pocket.
Yeah, right.
It's a morning and evening phone.
Overcoat or some cargo shorts. Actually, the 1520 is what I've been missing. What I'm really missing is the damn 950 XL. So a little like inside baseball action here. Like we're getting offers for the 950 review units like crazy. I just had a 950 sent to me. I didn't even ask for it by
It's like a hard life you live, Michael.
Right, I know, and I don't mean to say like, oh my God, that's terrible. But we're buried in 950. Buried. We're underwater. They were covered up to our necks in 950 review units, and I have been bothering people for XLs since it was announced, and we have no lead on one. We have no nothing. We have to buy one basically if we want one, and I want one really badly, but I can't find them. Are they still?
No, you have to take 3 950s and put them on your crafting table, and then that combines to the XL.
You're right. You just stick them in a vise.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how that works out. But were you at all tempted by the 950?
Well, I was tempted by the 950 like I was tempted by the 1520. The 1520 was a successor to the 920, which is a great device, and it was a year later. It was the flagship. It's available. The thing is enormous. For me, I just don't need a phone that big. I didn't hesitate. I got it. It was the new phone, and I quote unquote lived with it for a year until the 830 came out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a great phone, but then of course the 950 XL tempts me. It's a new device. I want to get it, but it's not one of those daily drivers for me. I don't need the size. The specs are almost entirely the same. When we talk about these gradient levels, you have just iPhone 6 and or 6S and 6S Plus, for example.
Mm-hmm.
When I think of well, that's not as good of an example. I'll talk about the smaller phones because Stephen, you like the little phones.
Oh
and
boy,
so,
do I.
Yes, and so let's just say the S4, right,
moment.
and the S4 Mini. Wow, how they screwed that up. But the S4 Mini was what people wanted, and it was so hobbled and just junk, as I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And why have the small phone be the less flagship? Why not have, like in this case, the 5.2-inch 950 is the flagship, spec'd out well, and then you have the 950 XL, just a little bit bigger, with, for all intents and purposes, the same specs. It's moving it up. It's adding a layer instead of taking one off.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think I was very excited to try the 950 XL. Actually, I'm never excited to do comparisons, and I was excited to do a comparison between the 950 and the XL, principally to see what the difference would be in Continuum. The XL doesn't bring an added gig of RAM, which I fooled myself into thinking it did for a while, so that was disappointing to discover I was wrong on that. They both have 3 gigs.
It's bigger. There's
Not
more
the
room.
Note 5, man.
More room for
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's no room. No, but it does have the Snapdragon 810, which is a more powerful processor. Yep. And then let's throw the heat thing completely out the door because, as I said in a previous show, I feel like the 808 run feels just as hot as the 810 after a few minutes of use. But I'd like to see how it handles content. I'd like to see if it's a little faster in Microsoft Edge, particularly on a huge screen. I'd like to see how it handles itself better, if it does. But I don't know. I think let's stop talking about hardware. I was going to have the Surface 3 as my podcast sidekick today, but I hadn't used it in a few weeks, so I was running some updates on Windows 10.
What did you do?
Well, Windows Update does what it always does. It gets to 0%, stares at me for 7 minutes, and then I forget and do something else, and then I regret that the thing is even in my office. So it's not here, and by all that I mean to say Windows 10 has a lot of work left to be done on it, and that's certainly true in mobile. How has your experience been on the software side, Vernon? Has it been as buggy as mine?
Well, a little bit more so. As far as mobile, it is buggier than Big Windows. Big Windows is what's making the money. Windows Mobile is this little side project, really, and sadly, that's what it is. It is a little bit more buggy. The 950 is not very buggy. It's acceptable, just like a week after the new iPhone, there's an update. That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
It's acceptable. It's not desirable. It's a little bit frustrating, especially as a fan. But the operating system, like I mentioned before, I don't like that stinking hamburger button. And I know that's like a curse word, but it's like we have, where's your thumb? Where is your thumb? The hamburger button, if anything, should be at the bottom right, because that's where you need to access it.
So I did this very thing in the review video where I'm using an app called Blue Skies for my weather, and it's designed in the old method, and I can just swipe from pane to pane with a thumb, and it's a very, very smart UI. If I go to the Windows Store instead, and I want to go access the settings or my accounts and see what I've got to download, I'm right-handed, and I've got I have to bring another hand into the equation, tap it, and then select. It is the dumbest thing that they could have done to this OS. And we've talked about it a lot, but you are
Absolutely.
Right. Swear all you want, Vernon. You talk about that hamburger button is the shitty thing it is, because it's terrible.
Yeah.
And it's somehow more offensive, right? Because it's not like Microsoft invented it and then we get to crap on them for inventing it. They had a better solution, and then they decided to blend in better with the competition and make people more comfortable. They would implement this terrible design.
I'm not a fan of comfort. I'm a fan of being on the right side of history. 10 years from now, when we hit that, this is the pinnacle, whatever, it's always growing, but when we reach what we think is the best way to interact with something, why would it be that stinking hamburger menu? Would it not be a panning and scrolling UI? That makes sense to me, and Microsoft did it almost 5 years ago. One could argue earlier with the Zune software. What's going on? But that kind of answers your question, how I feel about it.
They're trying to make it accessible. You have to make this dumbed down UI that's sort of consistent across platforms. People know they look for an ellipsis, look for a hamburger to get more functionality out of something. They're in a desire to be more accessible, they're really doing themselves a disservice.
Sure. Yes, exactly. Especially now that Microsoft's strategy with Windows Mobile is no longer to capture market share, it seems, or that's what they said. They built this phone for enterprise, they built it for the value segment, and they built it for the fans. So if you're doing that, if you're going to redefine it that way, I understand that maybe that was a more recent decision than some of the design decisions that went into this. And I know it's also tricky to build the same OS that can work across multiple screen sizes. So all this stuff, this is not easy work to do. I don't mean to be flippant about it. But if you're building an OS that's meant to stand on its own and isn't trying to actively capture people from the other platforms, why do you have to emulate their bad design decisions? I would encourage a rethinking of that.
Well, since Microsoft is listening to me right now and they're ready to make changes based off of what I say,
they're all listed. They all tune in.
I propose this, okay? Because like in the Edge browser on the phone, you have the entry bar, URL bar at the bottom. Makes
so
sense.
Smart. Yes.
Yes. In Edge on the browser, like in Continuum, it's on the top where people have been using it for ages. I understand that. So why can we not, as simple as just move that hamburger menu down to the bottom? It will take a moment. I mean, people will freak out momentarily, but they're like, oh my God, this works.
Right.
And it still adheres to the Windows 10 UI concepts. Boom. I mean, like, it's a very simple answer to a complicated question, but
I think you've solved Windows 10 Mobile.
Done. Moving on.
I wish I had a dedicated applause button so that I could hit it, but I can't. I think that it could also go in the home key row, by the way, but we could talk about alternate concepts.
I agree with that.
So, what about the ecosystem? You've been living in Windows Phone for a while. What I want to get out of this, if there is some scintilla of wisdom to be derived from isn't that nice?
Someone's been using this word a day toilet paper.
Thanks. So if there is some wisdom to be gained from this, I would like to know about your experience using Windows Phone on a day-to-day basis, now Windows 10 Mobile on a day-to-day basis, because I can do it, but I'm cheating. I'm Captain Two Phones, so I always have an Android phone next to me, so I can run Snapchat, so I can run frickin' wearables besides the Band 2, which I would never wear because it's not my thing. So I'm cheating. I'm able to use a Windows phone, which I love using, without sacrificing anything else because I have another phone in my other pocket. You don't do that, so how can you manage? What is it like when someone is like, oh, have you tried this new game? We're all playing it. Literally everyone you know is playing it. Do you want to play? And you're like, I can't download that. I mean, how do you live?
Well, sadly, I think one of the reasons that I do enjoy Windows Phone is that it is niche anyway. Okay.
Sure.
If everyone is doing something, okay, and I use this all the time. 300 years ago, we all knew the Earth was flat. Okay, and there's that one guy's like, maybe not. And they're like, what is wrong with you, dude? Okay, so
right.
But maybe that's just my personality. I do have a Gmail account, obviously. I mean, I use an iPhone for work. My regular job, I have a work-issued iPhone. I have a Moto G sitting here that I play around with, and a couple hours a week I use I work at Best Buy just for a couple, like literally to get the discount, right?
Cool.
So I have some interaction there. But yeah, my core stuff, everything is saved on OneDrive. I don't use Amazon Cloud. I don't use iCloud. I mean, not on purpose. And like Dropbox or Evernote, I don't use those things. I jump into them occasionally to see what they're like. Mm-hmm. But OneNote just kills it for me. It's awesome.
Yeah, OneNote is really good.
Been very, very awesome, and has changed.
Yeah. Well, refresh our memory here. Everyone's talking about the bad OneDrive change, but just really quickly, what do they do?
It used to be OneDrive was this thing. Okay, all your stuff everywhere, and this, accessible from any place, and that makes sense. And Microsoft did do well. It's a good, you can access it from the web. There's OneDrive apps on iOS and Android, of course, and then it's built into Windows Phone, built in very, very well to begin with, and now through an app. Well. And they used to just hand out free storage for anything. Okay, literally, here you're an enthusiast, 25 gigs of storage. Like all these different things, and it was great. People would just stack it up. Bing rewards, you'd get all kinds of free storage, and then like if you use the Microsoft Groove Pass, which used to be like Zune Pass and Xbox Music Pass, whatever, you'd get 100 gigabytes of storage, tons and tons of storage, more than I needed. Well, then what they're doing now. They're trying to get people, I feel, to use OneDrive. They're trying to get people to use Office 365. so that you're getting the latest version of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whatever. And by doing that, you automatically get a terabyte of storage, which is plenty for most people. Well, they made the mistake. Somebody was like, hey, unlimited storage, that'll bring people in. And it did. But then those purists are like, ha ha ha, all my Blu-rays are going to the cloud. And it happened.
Right.
And that's the argument for it being ruined. I don't quite buy that, but that is, whatever. And so now they've trimmed back to literally, if you go to Outlook.com right now and you say, I want a new email, and you set it up, and you will get, well, I think when the changes take effect in January or something, you'll get 5 gigabytes of OneDrive storage. That's the same as iOS. And we've laid into, or iCloud, laid into them forever on being just a minuscule. It's like, what are you going to do with this? You can barely store anything there.
Store what Blu-ray?
Yeah, I know.
Now, what about? I mean, there are alternatives, though. I mean, you can hop on the Windows Store and grab Dropbox or Box or whatever else, whatever cloud storage solution you want to use. So I mean, it's not. I don't know. I guess because I never used OneDrive too extensively, I'm kind of like, I don't know. Do what you want. It's fine.
Well, sadly, it used to be better in two ways. It used to be cheaper and more free, right? But it also used to be that it would integrate much better with Windows Phone. It was tied in better, even in Windows 8.1. Really had good integration. Enthusiasts really enjoyed that. And with Windows 10, there's improvements all about, but it kind of hobbled OneDrive. And I really don't understand what's going on there in a few different reasons. I don't know, but it's
I think one of the interesting things about Windows Phone to me is this, like, I'm going to keep calling it Windows Phone, by the way. I know we're going to get letters on that, but
it'll come back. Don't worry.
It's just easier, I still say Windows Mobile, and like my mind immediately, involuntarily clicks back to like a Samsung Blackjack in 2008. I'm like, Windows Mobile, you were fun.
Touch Pro, HTC Touch Pro,
HTC Mogul.
How about a WinCE phone?
6700. Steven, don't be gross. Motorola MPX 220. Remember that thing? Anyway, we could do that forever. Motorola i930. All good times. But one of my favorite things about Windows Phone is that it's being turned into this thing where it's being targeted at enterprise, all that stuff we said before. Some of its biggest selling points are some of the corners of Microsoft I could not care less about. I think Microsoft Word, I think PowerPoint, I think like college classes that I didn't really care about that I just needed to sweat through. I hate Office. All this stuff, like I don't belong in the Microsoft ecosystem, but I love the interface so much and the little touches that it brings that I can't tear myself away from Windows Mobile. Someone, and I may have mentioned this before, someone on one of the Twit podcasts maybe 8 months ago was a guest, and she had a Windows Phone, and I think Leo Laporte was like, why do you have a Windows Phone? And she's like, because in my opinion, it makes every other smartphone OS look just terrible and juvenile and lame. And I think it still does that in Windows 10. Do you agree, Vernon?
Yeah, it does, especially the start screen. I mean, the layout of it, if you're following the traditional designs of it, like the start menu, you have options. You can load that thing up and make it complicated if you really want to. But it's so simple. You can put just 4 things on there, basically, for someone, their 90-year-old grandmother or whatever. Okay, I'm not going to tell you it's a smartphone or you're going to freak out, but this is a phone. You push one of these things and you communicate with others.
True.
And then the camera aspect of it too. I literally got my mother a 640 when they were $30. She doesn't know this yet, but for Christmas I'm going to get this set up for her. And that is a quite adequate camera for $30. That will be her Facebook phone, and she'll take pictures of her animals and her grandkids, and it will go, like, she will never make a phone call on there. She will never even type anything probably, but that is, that's progression, I think, and it is beautiful, and it can be simple, it can be powerful.
Man, I got my mom using Facebook on her phone. I've yet to get her to share photos with it. This is too complicated.
Understood. Well, she'll get there. My mom eventually got there, students. All right, well, she'll get there. I tend to, one of the nice things I like that I don't think Android and iOS have really figured out is that not only can you pin apps to the home screen, because everybody can do that, and not only can you pin widgets to the home screen in the case of live tiles and with live updated information, but you can do this thing where if you're within an app, and my favorite example is Maps, and you have a specific destination that you like a restaurant that you want to visit while you're visiting this town, you can pin that specific place to the start screen, and that bypass everything. You don't have to click into maps and then find it in your favorites. You just find the tile on your search screen, you hit it, and then it brings it up right to that thing. I love that. I love it for notes too. I have my Lumia 950 impressions memo, which is just pinned right to the home screen. I tap and it goes right into it. That's something that I'm just frankly stunned that not more Android skins do. I'm sure that third-party, UIs do it. But like, what am I thinking? Steven, bring me back into Android. What are those things called?
Widgets or what?
CyanogenMod things.
Oh. I don't know.
Custom brews of Android. Why am I?
Custom ROMs?
Custom ROMs. Thank you. What was so hard about that? I haven't been on a Windows phone for 14 days. So my brain has changed. Don't blame me. Listen, we have about 3 minutes left in this segment, guys, so I want to hit some of these Q&As while we still have Vernon and his unique perspective. I like this one from Mark Eric Lane. Would you guys have liked BlackBerry to run a variant of the Priv that runs Windows 10?
Yes.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, Dell already did that, and it was called the Venue Pro, and I really liked that phone.
I missed that guy.
Yes, that was an awesome device.
God, that was cool. Did you own one?
No, I borrowed one for a while, and this was back when I was an enthusiast, but it was just like, I can't dedicate any time or energy into this. It's like I just happen to have a phone, and this is what I picked. But right. Beautiful device, awesome. I don't know why we don't have those things more. Oh, we do. The Priv.
I know.
Kind of.
I know. Somebody better. We're going to talk a little later in the show about a phone that runs Windows 10 that wasn't designed to run Windows 10. That's pretty cool. But somebody needs to do that to build more vertical sliders so we can do that. It's a good idea, Mark Eric Lane. And I never owned a Dell Venue Pro either, Vernon. I wanted to. I ended up buying a Samsung Focus. But when the Dell Venue Pro launched, it had inventory issues. They couldn't build enough of them, and they were all defective. So maybe it's good that I didn't get one. Though I do wish Dell would come back into the frickin' market. Jonas Gamau, what do you think about what Ballmer said about Windows Phone needing Android apps and the Universal Windows apps not succeeding?
Well, think of it this way: is that the Universal Windows apps, there's a problem there. They're new. It's taking some time to build some momentum. Recently, the Facebook app, we're saved now that we can now do Facebook on Continuum. My God, but it's growing, and you can do more and more. It's not there yet, just like anything. The app problem with Windows Phone itself, Windows Mobile, is a problem. But what Ballmer said about Android being the direction it's going, the podcast I'm part of is called MS Mobile Show. Obviously, we couldn't say Microsoft, but it implies that. And so, mobile being, you can open out OneDrive on an Android phone. You can run Outlook on iOS. Sadly, sometimes better than on Windows Phone. And which is, as a fanboy, it just blows my mind. But that's the long-term play, is to just make sure that they're getting their services out there. Part of it too is saying that this universal app business, well, you need to have a platform, a mobile platform for that to go on anyway, and really just to showcase it. Continuum is not ready for the mainstream. People are not lining up. You don't have businesses saying, "Yep, I'll get 2,000 right now." Right. It's not there right now, but I think it's, like I said before, being on the right side of history. I think it's the direction we're going. Yeah. And so having this is just basically showing what can be done, even if it literally isn't, even if almost nobody's doing it yet.
I think, speaking of history, I think Ballmer is a part of, for better or worse, is a part of Microsoft's history, and I don't think his statements are, I'm not going to say he's wrong, but I don't think his statements are as newsworthy as maybe the starved news cycle is making them
It's
out.
like when you start hearing Woz comment on
right.
what Android's doing.
Right. Yeah. It's like, okay, your vision would have been interesting. Some parts would have been worse. Some parts would have been better. But that's not going to come to pass. So let's not pay it as much credence as we are. Although I think it is nice because he does serve as a mouthpiece to all those other people out there who everyone wants to solve this problem of Windows Phone because they want to keep Windows Phone around.
Hey, I already did. I already helped solved it.
Earlier. Oh, you already? That's right. You already did earlier in the show. All right, shut it down, everybody. Lights off. We're done. Anyway. Another Ann says, new decent Windows phones are so rare that it's like Christmas when one comes out. And sometimes it is almost Christmas when one comes out. It is true. Oh, I like this. I have a Lumia 1020. The Windows Phone UI start screen reminds me of the easy mode on my S6, a way to make a $600 phone a dumb phone. It's almost like a sick burn, but like I don't, it's like.
Well,
Yeah.
that's sometimes people don't need a smartphone, and like I said, I work in retail, and so we have these people coming in who obviously they're going from this feature phone, and we're selling them. Oh, the S6 is awesome. You're gonna love this. All the things you can do, and pretty much most of the time we just set it to easy mode for them, set up the 3 things they're gonna do on it, and what's the difference?
Yeah, no, it's a
They're
good.
paying $600 for.
Now they're paying for a data plan.
Right.
Well, yeah, but $600 for $100 worth of features they're going to use, or whatever.
Arjun PC wants to know if I tried changing the DPI of the 950. Have you done that, Vernon? Have you changed the DPI settings of the display?
Yep. Yeah, you add a couple things you can get. Then you can add in the 4th row.
Wait, can you do
tiles.
that with the out-of-the-box settings menu? Because I'm
Correct.
looking at it right now. Okay.
Yep. Display.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to do this now, but under display, and then change the.
It's just the size of text, apps, and items on the display.
Yes, there's 2 things. There's display, and then there's also under ease of access. So typically you change the DPI settings under display, and then changing that's going to allow you to do a few more things. When you get a chance, change that by 1 notch, then add the 4 extra row of tiles, then go into your messaging settings and select a message, and you will see an icon of all the other conversations you have on the left.
How interesting. So by default, it's set to 400%, and you're advocating what, changing it to 450 or 350?
Let me pull it up here because my memory is not.
I know this is great radio, everyone.
300. Well, or 350. Just go 300 because that's what I have, and I know it works there, but 350 may work as well.
This change requires restarting your device. That's okay, because we get to see one of those nice little other touches of Windows 10 where it flashes your next calendar appointment before it shuts down. That's so nice. Yeah. What, Stephen?
I just love that you're able to do all this right from the UI without doing any, in-depth build prop.
Yeah. That is nice. There are like some options in the settings menu that I'm not accustomed to seeing on a lot of phones. Like if you want to choose an accent color, like it gives you a palette of, it gives you too many options. It gives you like 80 options. It's crazy.
Too many colors.
It's too much.
And just like printer settings, I know you can.
But printer.
Well, here's the thing: is that this is Windows 10, or we're led to believe that, and really the underpinnings are. One can make that argument that why would this not be the same, most of that stuff as as big Windows, even as simple as when you pull up. Go ahead.
I was frustrated to hear. I think with Windows Central was plugging in a bunch of USB-C Type-C accessories to see what would work, and it doesn't support Ethernet. You can't just hook it up to your high-speed home broadband connection and get some stupid fast internet on your smartphone.
That should be enabled. That should be there.
But there's some corner desk in a basement at Microsoft with one guy whose only job is to watch for the first Windows 10 user who does that. And it's going to be you, Stephen, and you're going to win some kind of award. Wow. This is a different experience. So I've changed the DPI settings on my Windows Mobile on 950. The start screen is the exact same layout, but
it's enabled in settings and then start. That way you can now change it. You have the option to add that 4th row.
Interesting. The 4th row of tiles.
Start menu. Yeah.
Oh, fascinating. But the interface elements are different. There's now a stripe through one of my tiles for no reason, and the text size is way smaller. But because it's a 4K, because it's a Quad HD display, I can see a lot more. So that's interesting.
But you can still adjust under ease of access. Then you can bump up the text size anyway to compensate.
Wow.
Go to messaging, and you'll see what I mean by going selecting a message conversation. You'll see your other conversations on the left.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. So there's. Hold on. You guys can't see this. So there it is. You have 2 messages as you normally would in the threaded view, and on the left you've got a bunch of circles to jump right to another conversation. That's super cool. Cool. I need to fiddle more. All right, I'm adding 500 more words to this review. Right
It's what it needed. It was a little on the short side.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Arjun PC, for the tip. Thank you, Vernon, for the how-to. And we have time for one more Q&A in here, and I had it selected, and now it is not there. It's a little bit of a speculative thing. Jan Strasky, would Nokia have produced a better phone than the 950 if it was not bought by Microsoft? Generally, I don't like too speculative stuff, but I thought it was an interesting question. The only accurate answer is maybe, but what do you think, Brian?
Well, I think that they would have much more incentive to do so because they are relying more on that, obviously. Microsoft does not need the income from Windows 10 Mobile. I mean, they don't. That's not the point of it.
Mhm.
But Nokia certainly did, and so one could speculate very easily that they would have. The other side of that is that Nokia made tons of these low-end phones, just churning them out, and we can assume that they were making profit on that. And now that is getting trimmed back, Microsoft has a little bit of a different direction they're going with.
3 questions from me, Vernon, before we let you go. One, are you going to get one of the Mozo leatherbacks, or are you not a leather phone man?
Well, I absolutely love this thing. I really, really do. And so, I mean, the look of it, and I haven't handled it, but I have not purchased one yet. Part of it is that I do, if there's anything that is recognizable about this phone, if anyone recognizes it, it will be this because of the commercials. If anyone's looking at the video here,
What,
and
the Windows Phone logo on the white polycarbonate?
Yep. I mean, they might actually see this phone in a commercial, and they would maybe recognize it.
Mhm.
They would less likely recognize it with the Mozo back on there. That being said, I have a case for it anyway, which works fine. But yeah, they're beautiful. I really, really love. It's so underappreciated that Microsoft worked so closely with Mozo to have that, to add that customize, that option.
Love it.
Because most people really think this looks like junk, and it's hard for me to truly disagree with them.
Yeah. It's funny because it's not bad. Like it's not bad, but it's also not great, and it's
not premium.
Yeah, you pick it up and you're like, oh, what 700 series device is this? It feels pretty okay.
Yeah.
Now the other side of that is that the 700 series devices have been pretty nice. I feel.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I mean,
So
when you're dropping like, how much is this? What is this? About $289? Oh, $599. Oh, I see. Oh, you're an insane person. Why am I in your store? But anyway, that being said, I might actually buy one of these. I have an editorial cooking in my head that's about why I chose to kick off 2016 with a BlackBerry Priv and a Lumia 950.
What the hell, Michael? I know who you are.
well, excuse me. It will adequately replace your 1020. I mean, as far as the camera on here,
No doubt.
and I'm sure you'll dig into that on your review, but I'm very satisfied with it. Not saying it's better than any other phone out there, but it's quite adequate.
Did you play Doom like the rest of the world back in the day?
Yeah, okay, at friends' houses. Yeah, my parents. That was way too violent for my parents.
Oh
too.
yeah. No, so I think I had to obscure those floppy disks from my own parents. But there is a Doom filter there's a Doom lens rather available. So you download the Doom lens and you can shoot subjects and
Oh, fabulous.
Nice. Didn't know that.
Yeah, in that wonderfully lo-fi way that sort of removes you from all the real graphic violence that Doom would otherwise prompt. Anyway, that's really depressing.
If it's blurry, it isn't violent.
That's exactly right. If there are not enough pixels, then it's fine. I had 2 other questions. I've forgotten both of them, but I think the most important one, and the one that I will ask, is: Are you going to stay with the 950 for the next 2 years, or will you be siren-songed away by the next Windows Phone?
Well, around 8 months or so, I get the itch and I pick up something. And so, I might pick up the next low-end phone. There's Lumia 550 I don't know if it's coming to the U.S., but I might snag one of those. We're expecting, a year from now to have this Surface phone, and there's really, I can't envision a way that I would not get that.
Yeah, same here. I'm with you. Billy Hole was asking in the chat, I'm sorry, if we would review that 550. I don't know if we will. We will have to see. Vernon, tell everyone, it's just been awesome having you on the show. Thank you for joining us on such short notice. I said to you before, but everyone, we book guests with about, Stephen, about 8.5 minutes notice or so?
Oh, 6, 7, 8, sure.
Yeah, so we really thank you, Vernon, for being available on such a quick turnaround. And tell everyone where they can hear you talking Windows elsewhere on the web.
Well, yeah, the podcast I've been part of for about a year now is the MS Mobile Show, obviously msmobileshow.com, and you can follow MS Mobile Show on Twitter, same handle, and you can find me on Twitter at Vernon E.L. I really don't look me up on Google Plus. I don't really post anything there, as one would imagine.
They're all
excused.
Paid users. Thanks a lot, Vernon, and listen. Come back and talk to us with the next major development here after we get some more time, after we get a couple Windows 10 mobile updates. we'll come back. We'll talk about what's right and what's wrong.
Would love to, yeah. And looking forward to hopefully things work out for you to join us next week.
Damn right. And if I do, I'm going to talk about it on this here program.
Cool.
But whether I do or not, everyone come down, go listen to the MS Mobile Show if you like Windows stuff, because you should like Windows stuff. Windows
absolutely. It really was a pleasure joining you guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks again, Vernon. See you later.
Yep.
Stephen, there were context links and all kinds of other news that we didn't hit in the Windows segment, but I want to inform everyone that if they want to know more about the Windows block, they should check out the rundown. We had a couple Q&As saying, like, guys, you're forgetting about the Xiaomi phone that runs Windows and Android side by side. And it's in the rundown, guys.
Don't forget.
It's in the rundown, which always goes up hours before the show at pocketnow.com. We're going to get to it. Don't you worry your heads. But it is time to jump into the news block, and if Jules has no objection, then we can do that. If he does have an objection, I'll inform him to keep it constant. Riots! Surface Phone, Andy Rubin, Snapdragon 830, Nubia, Xiaomi, Huawei, Remix, Zen, and we're done.
Boom! All right. Thanks for tuning in to this week's Pocketnow Weekly.
So, Stephen, you haven't talked in about a year. The Surface Phone is not going to happen. It's going to be called the Panos phone.
Well,
neither of these things is true. Tell us what
it
is
was
true.
going to be called any of these things.
Yeah.
We've been talking about a Surface phone for the longest time now, and rumors, I think, really picking up over the last several months now as we had the 950 on the horizon, and we started to get this idea that 950 is going to be the best, closest thing to a flagship we've had on the Windows ecosystem in a while now, but as good as it might look, there's still something better on the horizon. And clearly, in what we're talking about now, it does great things, but it's not quite the premium phone a lot of people were looking for.
Word.
And we've been holding out hope that this Surface phone, this mythical Surface phone, will be able to deliver. Rumors were talking about metallic construction coming out sometime mid next year-ish, and now we're hearing it could still happen. There is this phone, this higher-end Microsoft Windows phone on the horizon. It may not be exactly the hardware that we heard. So the latest rumor saying that device, this metal mid-2016 thing, might not be happening. Instead, we have Panos Panay heading up Surface Windows Mobile development, has this new pet project that he's been working on, being referred to internally as the Panos phone. It's not going to launch as that. It would be awesome if it did. What if Microsoft employee like signature series phones
with Panos' autograph on the back, just laser etched in there.
First gen Macintosh, all the developers' signatures on there.
Jules says the Windows Panorama. Yeah, that'd be great.
But regardless of what hardware this is, we're still looking at it coming out sometime next year. Now a little bit later on, probably closer to fall, as a sort of the annual follow-up, I guess, to the Lumia 950, which isn't great if you were expecting that the spring would bring us something a bit more flagshipy from Microsoft, but. Again, the company's it's not putting this huge emphasis on consumer devices here. There isn't, I don't think, a strong demand for this super premium Windows Mobile hardware, and as a result, they're kind of retooling things and taking their time to get this right. So, happening, not too. But the x86.
I am going to buy that, and it better have a kickstand. But the x86 thing, go ahead.
Yeah, we're still hearing this might have an Intel chip in it, and although it's kind of a leap of faith, it's possible this could have an x86 architecture. It's possible you could plug it into Continuum and get like everything that we missed about Continuum in the 950 now. Maybe this Surface, the Panos phone, would be able to deliver in running old Windows Win32 apps, just much broader app compatibility, really coming through on the promise of this is a computer hidden inside your smartphone here. We're close now, but this could bring us the rest of the way there.
Unless we get carried away with ourselves, there's. I heard a very insightful observation on another podcast recently, which is no surprise considering the source. Mary Jo Foley and Ed Bott were on a podcast called the Tech Pro Research Podcast out of Tech Republic. which just had its first episode, and there was a great discussion about the future of Windows 10, and the point was made that the Continuum is a really great demo feature. It is something that you can show in front of an audience of people in a bunch of live streams and just can sort of blow people's pants off, and it's incredible.
There's a bug coming here.
Yeah, but it's tougher to integrate it. It's tougher for an actual customer to integrate it into their workflow at this point. So there was an air of caution. I think it was Mary Jo Foley saying, "Listen, everyone's having this sort of pipe dream of this x86 powered phone that will turn into a full Continuum PC, and it would be nice, but don't hold your breath, basically." So, but we will see. It will be interesting. What? Go ahead.
I want to hold my breath.
Well, you can. You want to be like
I'm going to turn purple.
Robert De Niro in Men of Honor, the film that was nothing like the reality of Cookie. Give me my 12 steps, whatever the hell it was. We're moving off of Microsoft. We have more other stuff happening in the world, including a rumored return of a luminary to the smartphone space. Right? What's the story?
Andy Rubin could finally be getting back into the smartphone game. And as anyone who's been a fan of Android should know, Andy Rubin helped make Android the Android it is. Co-founded the original Android Incorporated before Google ever got its hands in the mix. Stayed along with Android at Google for the longest time until a couple years back. We got word that he was going on to other projects, and you can only do smartphones for so long. Your interests are going to start to wane. And he was checking out some other projects on Microsoft. Eventually left the company. He's been doing like investment in startups now. But now there's this rumor that he could be thinking about getting back into the smartphone game. Exactly how remains to be seen, but supposedly his investment group has been looking to hire developer talent. It's not clear, if he's going to be leading this, designing a phone, even exactly what they're going to be doing. Platform-wise, presumably we're looking at Android here, but right now, nothing is certain. It's just rumor that somehow he could have new involvement in the smartphone market at all.
Did you mention that his incubator closed a $300 million fundraising round?
That was a couple months ago.
Yeah.
They got a little cash to throw around.
Yeah, so that could be interesting. Might see something along the lines of like what Scott Croyle and company did with Robin with Nextbit, the Nextbit Robin, or are doing, not did. The phone isn't even out yet. I'm talking about like it's already happened. Also, fun fact about Andy Rubin: before he helped co-found Android, he was very successful in introducing the world to the Danger hip hop, also known as the Sidekick.
Man, I wanted that so badly in what was that, 2006?
Well, 2003 was when 2002 the first one came out, and I got one finally in 2006 with the Sidekick 3, and it was a fun time, really fun time. Very expensive app store. But if you have memories, like I think I paid $10 or $20 for an app that would let me control the color of the LED trackpad. It was at least $10. It might have been $20.
Christ.
But yeah, they made bank on apps, man. Because everybody had the Sidekick. If you were hip, if you were a hip top, if you were hip, you had a hip top. Hip top. Danger. R.I.P. Poor little loud. What's next?
Qualcomm.
Snapdragon 830. 8
All
gigabytes?
of the memory.
What?
This is no good. I can't be talking about phones that have more memory than my computer. This is unacceptable.
As always, you have to upgrade.
Yeah, well, we hit the 3 gigabyte mark a while ago, hit the 4 gigabyte mark this year. Now we're talking 6 maybe from Samsung. It's got some chips ready for that in future phones. Latest rumor saying that Snapdragon 830, which is still a ways off, we don't even have our first 820 phones yet, but when the 830 gets here, it might be ready to support 8 gigabytes of RAM on a single smartphone. And I know everyone in the comments is pushing back against this. Y'all are crazy. We don't use the memory we have on smartphones very well now, especially with the power management. Android is always trying not to keep a lot of things in memory. So the use case of this is probably going to be a little harder to work out than the technical engineering to actually bring us the hardware. But there are some ways we could make use of this, if not a Android version of something like Continuum. We're doing more desktop-style apps, just richer environments for things. We're talking about VR games are just starting to blow up now. Gear VR is apparently the hottest thing around right now for the holiday season if you have a Samsung device. So there's ways to take advantage of RAM for applications like these. If the A30 actually does this remains to be seen. I tried getting in touch with Samsung or Qualcomm because I was curious just how much RAM is possible with the current gen phones, because they're not really forthcoming about this supports up to XXX gigabytes. Didn't get a super satisfying answer, but I don't know. This could happen. 830. I assume we'd start hearing about it sometime in the spring of next year. That seems like when the first 820 details started coming out back in like March. Before it took a long time to reveal all the tech stuff behind that.
Yeah, it'll be. I'm very interested to see what the 820 does, though, because as we know, the old or as we assume, the old 810, bit of a stopgap. Not really the real thing. Sorry, I was just checking my inputs to make sure I was on the right mic. Somebody's just sent us an interesting link in the chat, which I will look at. Stephen, have you run a story or seen in stories on the Sync phone? SYNC.
Doesn't ring a bell.
It's this Atlanta-based Indiegogo project. It's has 27 days left. It's sitting at $18,000 right now. They need $750,000, and it is a Windows 10 phone, but it runs Windows 10, the full version, it would seem.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the top and bottom bezels on this thing.
It's an interesting design. It's a 5.4-inch display, which seems small for full Windows 10. But anyway, have a look at it. In the meantime, I'm going to thank you for that.
That's super interesting.
Pavel, thank you. There's the Q&A marker right there. There is the link as well on the Indiegogo Sync phone if you want to look it up. SYNC phone. Uniting the PC and smartphone. Check it out. Anyway, ZTE headlines generally don't make the podcast. There's a lot of news that doesn't hit our shores. There's a lot
and
of
this week's no exception. Next.
Oh, wow. Look at you. Just trying to keep us on the clock. Actually, we do have to go. Anyway, I was about to strike this from the rundown, but this looks like an interesting phone that we might see at CES. This is it has a curved screen. It is aluminum, it seems. It should launch with Marshmallow, 4 gigs of RAM, a 5.2-inch Quad HD display.
And the reason for the transition here, it could run a
Snapdragon 820. Yay. So that's why it has stuck in the rundown. So look out for the ZTE Nubia Z11, readied for both US and China, and we could see this at CES. Isn't that right, Steve?
I really hope we're not underwhelmed by these first-generation 820 phones. They just have so much to live up to after the 810 fiasco.
Right, which is a BS fiasco anyway.
I know, but they still have a lot of proving to do here.
I agree. Never underestimate manufacturers. Never underestimate the propensity of internet commenters to go crazy with a non-issue.
It's what we do. We're good at it.
It's what we're up to. Yeah. Could Xiaomi succeed where Samsung, HTC, or LG failed? That's the question.
The dream of a multi-platform smartphone.
Right. So this is that Xiaomi Mi 4 we were talking about earlier. Then we didn't forget, everyone. What is this, Stephen? This is an Android phone, but it runs Windows?
Yeah, it's Android out of the box here. Microsoft's released a Windows 10 ROM to allow you to use Windows 10 Mobile on this hardware here. It's experimental. This isn't for everyone, but if you're up to the task of it, and I guess you happen to have a Xiaomi phone, it's primarily focused at China users, obviously, but it's out. It's official, and if you are so inclined, why not try a second platform on your smartphone? Not everyone can have the HD2, but this is probably the next best thing that's been produced in the last 5 years.
Every time Joe Belfiore is pitching something on the screen, I'm just like, no matter what he's trying to sell me, I'm always just like, yeah, man, I should. You're right, Mr. Belfiore. I should just like be happier in general and maybe buy this thing.
Is this an old video? He's supposed to be on vacation now.
He is. He's cruising the world on a ship.
Yeah.
And he took a family trip, everyone, for a year-long sabbatical or something on a ship.
Better part of, yeah.
On a sailing vessel for educational purposes. And I was like, well, that sounds like a good idea.
You wouldn't have spent a year on a boat.
I was super jealous. So I looked it up. I was like, what if I took a sabbatical and went on that cruise? And then it was like, cruises packages start at, $80,000. And I was like, oh.
Just put a cot in the steering. She'll be fine.
Yeah. So, I mean, not that I don't have it, whatever, but, I totally don't have it. Nexus 7 might make its return. Huawei might make it. I don't really care much.
You don't care?
No, I don't.
I'm kind of missing the lack of a new Nexus Capital and Nexus tablet option this year.
Are you?
I guess. Pixel 3 didn't really do it for me.
Yeah, and the Nexus 7 served an important thing in that it was like this. It was one of the first attractive Android tablets because it ran stock,
so
it was so
affordable.
cheap,
Yeah.
and it was a pretty good tablet. I have very fond memories of the first Nexus 7, but
Maybe there's the argument to be made that there's a lot less of a demand now for that
there is.
really affordable entry-level tablet. Amazon is doing great business with
$50
its stupid
tablet
cheap. Yeah,
6-packs.
how do you
Yeah,
compete with that?
come on. This will still be pretty good, probably. It'll be fine. It's just that we can't go back to that kind of awesome moment where it was like, wait, they're selling a stock Android tablet for how much?
Yeah.
And it's 7 inches, so even though Android has shitty tablet optimized apps, it doesn't matter because you can just run the phone apps and it won't be that bad.
Good enough.
I'll buy it. And, we did. We bought a lot of them, and then we reviewed them for you.
But not much to this rumor just yet, other than Huawei could make it come out sometime next year. And oh god, we don't have this in the rundown, do we? The new the Samsung, the Galaxy A devices.
No, I don't really.
Can I just briefly comment on this?
Sure.
Is it not weird that Samsung's officially calling these the Galaxy A3 2016 when they are both launched and initially going up for sale in 2015? These are not cars, people.
They are cars. That's exactly what
this
the
is unheard
model
of
is.
for smartphones.
I don't know. I was very excited about the Galaxy Alpha. I thought the Alpha. I would have bought the Galaxy Alpha.
That was a sweet-looking phone.
Oh, what a fun phone! But now they've got this A line. Like I can't think of anything less inspired than like the Galaxy A. No, and I don't care. And they're mid-range weirdo phones.
Upper mid-range.
Sure, they can do whatever they want.
Okay.
I don't care. Like the Alpha had frickin' personality. It had this like grippy silicone back surrounded by a metal frame.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a hot phone. Galaxy Alpha was hot. Net A is nonsense. Hey, the Remix, I've never held an A, by the way. I think I've held 2 A's at a trade show, and then I forgot about them 2 minutes later. Who cares? Samsung makes great stuff. I just don't care about the A's. The Remix Mini is made by the same people who did that crazy Surface ripoff that ran Android that we saw at CES last year, which we never got a hold of, which I'm a little sad about. But this seems more like a proof of concept. This is a $70 personal computer in a little puck, in a little eyeglass case.
Yeah, no.
And it runs Android, but it runs like a windowed version of Android that looks really kind of cool.
I wished we had this on mobile devices. I loves me some Windows.
Jules rightly points out in his piece that it's better than Continuum in that respect, because Continuum cannot run apps side by side at the moment, which is sucky. But the
specs are kind of on the.
Apparently, the specs are bad, and the performance is really laggy from what we've seen on that story. So there's that. That being said, I'm going to seek them out at CES because I sort of stumbled upon the original remix last year, where it was like, oh yeah, what are they showing? Why are they showing off Surfaces? Those aren't Surfaces. They look a lot like Surface. Is that running Android? What? And then Hayato and I were both like, and we were like, oh, we got to come back here, and then we never came back, and everyone else covered it, and then I felt like a schlub. So I'm gonna find them this year, and I'm gonna ask Cortana to remind me. Would you tell me about the soap phone while I do?
I am just
remind me to get in touch with Remix at 5 p.m.
Oh, this is ridiculous here. Kyocera is coming out with a Kyocera.
Great.
She's done. Please continue.
Yeah, Kyocera doesn't do much, but in the smartphone world, but they make some rugged phones. They gave us that Sapphire one a while back.
Here's the commercial. Apparently, this is. I don't know exactly what this is. Oh, so this is it. So this is the device. I'm going to mute it. And this is the phone that you can lay on your dinner plate, right?
This is the Dingo phone. Digno.
It's got a lot of.
I really wish it were Dingo.
Nasty turkey on it now, but now the mom comes in with a bit of hand pump soap, puts soap all over the phone, and it foams because of sodium lauryl sulfate, I guess. And now it's shiny and new again after she ran it under the faucet.
Is this something that phones were lacking?
What, like soap proofing?
I mean, yeah. Granted, all of the waterproof instructions on phones, have that asterisk. This does not work in salt water, moving water, rain, acid rain, sudsy water, tap water. So yeah, the fact that it can withstand nice scrubbing, I guess, is noteworthy. But then again, what are you getting on your phone that's not coming off with a nice little microfiber cloth?
I surely don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that that's pretty cool though.
But I mean, maybe it appeals to like germaphobes, who the kind of people who are putting Purell in their hands every 5 seconds. Here, now you have the phone, you can throw in the dishwasher.
Word. This puts me in mind though of another pitch I got with regard to that I'm trying to look up right now. With regard to a salt water proof device.
Ooh, I prefer a brackish-proof phone.
Yeah, yeah, like a chlorine-proof one would actually be pretty cool too. But a saltwater-proof one would be this one too. I can't find it now. I'm getting a lot of results on my email for fuel cell chargers and the
Ooh,
V360, I guess,
want
was
those.
saltwater-proof. I don't know. Keys here are Brigadier, but was that one?
That's the Sapphire one?
Maybe. Let's just see. It's hitting me for water too. I don't know. There was a saltwater phone that we got pitched on. I was like, great. Can we have a review device? And they're like, we won't have those for months and months. And then
Oh no, it's not real. We're just.
oh yeah, no, we're just spitballing here. Anyway, saltwater-proof phones, very important. If that soap-proof phone there, if the dingo phone, it's not called the dingo phone. If that
should be.
if that phone is saltwater-proof, I want one because saltwater covers most of our planet.
That salt water will kill everything given enough time.
Saltwater is just brutal to electronics.
Yeah.
Listener mail time, isn't that right? Am I skipping?
No, that's it. Yeah.
Let's do it. Listener mail.
Dive right in.
Bong bong.
Bing bong bong. We said bong bong.
I ain't going until maybe I may have muted Jules.
Oh.
Nobody came back though. Thank you. That's better. Now I feel right.
Yeah.
We have a lot of listener mail, and then we have a fun little bit to end on. And I'm trying to find it. Thank you, Jules. Hello, Pocketnow team, says Joseph. I work a blue-collar job. I love this one, but I'm still required to be very connected. I find that I really appreciate smartwatches because it keeps me connected in the regular occurrence that I will be unable to take my phone out of my pocket, even if it is on me. My only fear is as of destroying a beautiful and expensive smartwatch. I currently have a Note 4, so Tizen isn't a problem. I own a Moto 360 first gen and a Pebble Time Steel and am preferring the Pebble. Is there anything out there for me? A lost cause, or should I just get a couple of cheap first gens somewhere? Best regards, Joe from Canada. I love this question because it's a tricky one.
But there's so many answers to it.
Yeah, it also, I'm going to let you go first then, but I like this question because it calls out a use case for a smartwatch that doesn't rely on like someone having this homogeneous, crappy, like overdone white collar thing. It's like, oh, I go to the office and then I come home and then I don't have a problem charging it. It's just like all the time it's the same old thing. It's like, yeah, it's kind of useful but sort of not. I don't know. This is a guy who's like, I work with my hands. I have a job that's rough on things. I can't take my phone out, so a smartwatch is useful to me in that regard. I love hearing that. That's awesome. If that's your story too, write in. We want to hear about it. Stephen, what's your answer?
Several answers here. One, I'm thinking that the best option, given the options that we were offered in the email here, is go for the really cheap first gen-ish. Even like a Pebble Time Steel, the original Pebble you can get for very, very little money these days.
Yeah.
If that meets your needs, it's as smartwatches go, it's a nice little. I mean, it's so covered in plastic there with that giant bezel on there. It probably feels more rugged than it is, but I think it'll withstand a good beating.
Rugged in the way that you don't care what happens to it.
Exactly, yeah, and you can then replace it for under $100 when something does go wrong there. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I know I've seen cases for certain smartwatches. Adding a little extra rugged.
Yeah, the cases for the Apple Watch.
Yeah, like Apple Watch, because my big problem with smartwatches and protecting them is that, I mean, I have this problem with watches in general. Anytime I put an expensive watch, I'm like walking with my arms at my sides, my wrists turned inwards, because I'm constantly banging my hands into like doorknobs and things. It's a really exposed position here. So if you can get just like a little bumper case for it that adds a little extra protection, that sounds great. My real answer, though, is I'm just going to completely ignore everything about what you wanted to do here. What we need are like pagers that run a smartwatch operating system on it and give you a little display at the top there. And it's on your belt, and you can glance at it. You have your notifications. You tap the side.
Yeah, no, those exist.
Those exist.
I don't think they're pager-like, but there are.
I want pager ones.
A bunch of people made back when smartphones were still so expensive that I mean, you still worry about people stealing them off of you in certain parts
Yeah.
of the country and the world. But like, there were smartphones that were like $900, and people knew what they were looking for in a subway, and then they would snatch it and whatever. So if you were scared of that, there used to be people who would custom build like an old ass Nokia 31 whatever, and throw in just like a Bluetooth module in there and make it workable as a peripheral device. So you could keep your expensive smartphone in your bag where it was handy, and then you could like text and talk through your little handheld peripheral.
I explicitly want something with that like top edge display, so you can put that like on your belt. There.
7130.
Okay, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, and a giant battery.
Well,
why not?
We're going to assume that,
I'm going to kickstart
that the writer is not going to go in that direction. So even though it's a good idea, though.
What do you think, Michael?
I think Pebble is a good recommendation if you want something you can just beat the hell out of. But you've already got a Pebble Time. Or wait, did you say Pebble Time or Pebble Steel? Those brand names confuse me.
Pebble Time Steel.
Pebble Time Steel. So the Pebble Time Steel already can handle some abuse. I mean, I know from mine. I'm wearing the Pebble Time Round. This is not the way to go. It's just so dainty. I would recommend sticking with those, and especially if you prefer the Pebble, pick up a Pebble Steel if you like the Pebble already, because the Pebble Steel is just like this rock. It's a monster, and it's got angular, and it's very badass.
It
looks like it can take some damage too.
I find myself a little more timid around metal-bodied electronics because it seems like they show the damage more.
You would think, but I don't know. The first gen Moto 360, which he has, I beat the hell out of mine, not on purpose, but I'm like you, Steven. I run into doorknobs, door jams. I run into car doors. If there's a door, I'll run into a part of it. And that 360, I mean, like, paint would come off the wall, but the watch would be fine. So the 360 is actually not bad. Right now, you're pretty well positioned, I think, given the watches you have. But if you're dying for a new one, the one that I was thinking on the Android Wear side was the G Watch R. It's the one Jules, I think, is still wearing. It is beefy. It's got that powder-coated black, like steel casing or whatever. It looks like it can take a lot of abuse, and as I recall, it sort of can. And I think Jules can be a little rough on his electronics, so it's still working fine until 2 seconds from now. He tells me in the chat that he broke it last week. But no, I think that's a good way to go, and I think it's still a little over $200. It's not on sale in the Google store in our market, but if you can find one of those, that's a nice, beefy, badass Android Wear watch, which I would go for it. So thank you for writing in. Let us know what you pick, and good luck. We want to read the next one, Steven?
Yeah, I hope it's Don here. Maybe I'm pronouncing that wrong. Apologize. Asks, I've been listening to your podcast for 3 months now, and it's become one of my favorites. Thank you for that. Thank you for listening. Here's my question. I'm using a MacBook Air and an iPhone 6 on a daily basis, but I've played with Illumia 640 for about a week, and I put Windows 10 on my Netflix PC, and I'm in love with the Surface Book. And I kind of like the look of Apple products, but I think that things Microsoft's doing are much more exciting than Apple. So I'm thinking about switching full-on from Apple over to Microsoft. I guess I'm going to make the switch at the right time. Do you think that time is now with Windows 10 Mobile just being released? Thanks in advance. Keep up the good work. We should have asked this earlier when we were talking about the Lumias and stuff, but...
Yeah. No, I don't think the time is now.
What would you wait for?
I'd wait for Windows 10 to get better. I haven't used it on the desktop in a couple weeks, so I'm sure it's improved significantly. But I'd wait for another couple weeks worth of revisions or another couple months worth of updates, especially on the mobile side. I don't know.
I think on the PC side, it's not going to get significantly different than it is now.
No, but I'm not talking about architectural differences. I'm talking about just like bug squashing.
Yeah.
But then again, I only have a Surface 3 to compare it with, so I mean maybe it runs like a dream on something better. But especially on mobile, it needs another, I would say, 2 months to get the number of bugs that I've seen.
Coming from iOS, you expect a certain level of polish on your mobile operating system that maybe Windows 10 Mobile isn't quite there yet.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I don't blame you for being in love with the Surface Book. And the Surface Book is a really, really compelling-looking piece of hardware. And yeah, Microsoft is doing more exciting things than Apple. I mean, Apple, in my opinion, is just doing these. We just came off an S year, so there's that. But also, I mean, like, what's the most exciting product they've got? Is the iPad Pro. It's just a monster iPad. I'm having the Apple Pencil delivered today. It's probably at the office doorstep right now. Yeah, right. And I wish I could respond that way, but I don't care.
Nah.
It's, I have a hard enough time using the S Pen on the Note, and I like the S Pen on the Note. Like the pencil. The iPad Pro does not speak to me in any meaningful way. And I think that's the way that it's going with a lot of their products. I think it's interesting that they haven't really released anything that's blown the faces off the public in a bit, even though their products are very good. Anyway, yeah, I think if you jump to Microsoft, that's the truth of it. Yeah, it'll be a more exciting existence. You will feel more often like you're living in the future, which is always fun. But you'll have to put up, on the mobile side at least, I can't speak with authority on the desktop. On the mobile side, you will have to put up with with more rough edges, certainly. No question. So, let us know if you do it, too.
Yeah.
I'm big into that today. Let us know what happens.
What about the feedback here on the Pocketnow Weekly?
I don't know what's going on.
No,
Last piece of listener mail is from our friend Sven. Sent from a Nokia 3310.
I love that.
Not true, but that is the
Stealing
best
that email signature.
ever. Hello, Pocketnow! My question for you guys is, if you were not given regularly to a new phone to review or use, would you guys consider a case plus tempered glass? I see them as attributes from the Antichrist. But hey, sometimes they come in handy. I work in the biggest mobile operator in Belgium, so I had the chance to switch regularly, but now I've taken up the quest to go 2 years with my phone. A lot of bets are involved, and I'm considering a case now for my LG G4. Keep up the good work, Sven. Sven, God bless you. Good luck, sir. That's going to be tough. 2 years on the same phone when you work every day around a bunch of phones that are by definition going to be better than the one you have now just because they're newer.
Temptation waits.
Crap. I'm going to get in on this bet. What's the bet? Because I'm going to bet against our friend Sven. Sven, I don't mean to not support you in your quest. I'm just saying I don't think you can do it because I couldn't do it. I tried this once. I went back to a dumb phone.
How long did this last for?
I don't know. Like, I really liked the Samsung A900, which was their Razr ripoff that was actually a lot better than the Razr. But I had a smartphone right before it, the 6700, I think. And I loved it, but I quickly found myself being like, oh, what? I can't have more than 99 contacts, or like I can't have more than 30 appointments in a calendar. Like, what am I doing? This
Poor popular Michael.
Oh yeah, I know. No, but anyway, Sven, good luck. This is a noble quest. Would I put a case on my phone if I was planning to keep it for 2 years? Boy, no. But I'm stupid. You should. Anyone else should.
Just be careful.
It's not. Sometimes, you never know. What if you fall off a boat, Steven?
Don't.
Okay.
Break the fall with your face. Just lean away from the pocket with your phone.
Just have a custom armored pocket from our friends at Scotty Vest. Just kidding. Yeah, you should definitely. Oh, what do you got? Steven's
2 years old, not a scratch on it.
Nexus 5, not a scratch on it.
Nothing. Just be careful.
Sven, you've heard it from here. I wouldn't do it. And the
G4 is such a pretty build on that thing. It's so slim on the edges. Don't ruin that with a case.
Okay, if you have a leather back on it, it's pretty. It's very pretty. And it's
I don't like the plastic.
The plastic kind of sucks. No. But the leather has stitches, and the stitches, as on every leather back, even this brand new frickin' Mozo one, the stitches fray and.
Okay, but you're allowed to replace that. It's still the same phone.
Yeah. Well, this is a good opportunity to segue into our final bit, which is based on a collaborative piece that Jules wrote. Called something like, if we all jumped ship tomorrow from our mobile blogger lifestyle and had to pick one device for the next 2 years, what would it be? A tiresome question that always gets asked, but I never get tired of it because I do love thinking about this very scenario. I know how I answered. Steven, how did you answer? I didn't read the piece.
I went with the OnePlus X of all phones.
Oh, good for you. That's a good choice for you.
I mean, all the modern flagships are just a little too large for my tastes. The OnePlus X keeps it tight. It's not the biggest hardware upgrade over my current device here, but it's something. A little more RAM, a little better processor. And the things that it doesn't do are not things that I look for in a phone. I could live without the NFC. I could live without the fingerprint scanner. The price is right. I like the look of it. I'm not super sold on Oxygen OS, but I can learn to live with it, especially if I got 2 years to learn.
Oxygen is cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good call, Steven. I don't think I could go with it for 2 years. Everyone already knows my answer. I would be the weirdo. So I think think I officially answered in the piece the BlackBerry Priv, because for all the reasons you guys already know if you've been listening to the show for a long time or watching the show. But if I had to pick a different one, first of all, I'd pick the Priv because it's weird and it's cool, and I can do a lot of cool things with it that you can't do on any other phone, and because, you know, you flip it out in public and people are like, oh, what is that? Which I like. Vernon touched on that before, so I'm not the only vanity-riddled person in the world when it comes to phones. I like people to be like, oh, what is that? Is that the new BlackBerry? Which everyone asked me.
Is this why you want the Runcible?
No, the Runcible is my other answer, though, and I want the Runcible because if I leave this lifestyle for any length of time, I want the exact opposite of it. I don't want to go back to a dumb phone because that's just frustrating, but I want a device that is consciously going to keep me from being stressed out. Yeah, I was playing Battlefront last night with my roommate, and his Moto X kept going off on the table because he kept getting Hangouts messages, and it kept vibrating. It was like, Mrr. And every time, I swear to God, it was this Pavlovian thing where my heart rate increased, I got stressed out, I started sweating, and I'm like, I get 1,400 notifications a day, I'm tired of it. Monome, I will pay you $600 for your heirloom electronic that doesn't really tell me that anyone's trying to get in touch with me. I would love that.
Wind up, too.
Build it! I built the damn thing already. Anyway, that's going to be our podcast because we got to get out of here. This has been fun. Stephen, you have been fun. You're a fun guy, and you're well lit, and you have a nice shirt. And I'm looking forward to being in Vejas with you. It's going to be great.
Counting the days.
I've been acting all day like this is January 31st. I don't know why. We have a month left to go in the year, but whatever. Listen, we got to get out of here. Jules, run the music. Q&A, people. Thank you for asking all your Qs. Hope our As were sufficient. People who wrote in, thank you for being awesome. And that, you know, is Jules.
You dumped this bucket of text in the chat.
Did he? What the hell?
Google Plus stuff.
I don't know why. What I've been watching. BlackBerry. Oh man. Oh geez. Thanks. Well, I'm sorry. I'm reading. This is great radio, right? I'm reading this thing and I can't Listen, Jonas Kamau, I got to read your comment off the air because the music's going to play us off. But thank you for writing in. I do appreciate it. Jules, I don't know where that came from, and I don't know what phone Jules would have picked, but I bet it's in that piece. Find us on Twitter, where our tweets are holiday gifts to you. Stephen is at Stephen Shank. Guest Vernon E.L. Smith is at Vernon E.L. Producer Jules Wong is at Greenpoint Zero. I'm at Captain Two Phone. Pocketnow is also there, and it all comes together like Sarium Krillide and Rapid Nadions and a futuristic dustbuster phaser at Pocketnow.com. Folks, if you enjoy the weekly, you need to tell your friends so we can keep doing the weekly. Share it with strangers, share it with family members, share it with loved ones via Carrier Pigeon, Smoke Signal, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever else podcast reviews are left on the web or in the world. And if you've got a big-ass, long listener mail saved up that you know we're not going to read because it's way too long, we have a Google Plus community. You can leave your comment there, and then it will get read. Because your letters, if they're too long, we don't read them, and then no one reads them, and that's a freaking tragedy, because I'm like, wow, this is a really good thought. I wish you'd shared it with the world. Go to our Google Plus community. It's in our Google Plus page at Pocket Now. It's for the podcast listeners, and you're all wonderful. Speaking of which, thank you. Thanks to our sponsor at Telecommunications Systems. And as always, the Pocket Now Weekly will be back with more mobile tech talk next week.